Hello students, let us start with the 7th chapter, that is structural organization in animals. So as the name is telling you, we will learn about the animal tissues in this chapter. So first of all, we need to understand what is tissue. We know that the bodies are very complex systems because they carry out complex functions like digestion, respiration, reproduction. So in order to carry out these functions, the body needs to be well organized. The smallest unit of our body is cells. So a tissue is nothing but a group of similar cells having one specific function and origin. So animal tissues can be divided into epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue and neural tissues. Let us start with studying epithelial tissue. So what is the meaning of epithelium? Epithelium is the topmost layer. So this tissue is the topmost tissue of the body. It has a free surface that faces body fluid or the outside environment. So this part will be facing the outside environment. It usually covers or lines body or body parts. Here the cells are compactly packed with little intercellular matrix. You can see here all the cells in these tissues are very tightly packed. So the epithelial tissue can be divided into simple or compound epithelium. As you can see here, a simple epithelium is usually single layered, whereas a compound epithelium can be multi-layered. So if we talk about simple epithelium, then simple epithelium, as we saw, is composed of single layer of cells. It usually lines body cavities, ducts and tubes. Based on the structural modification of cells, that is variation or the differences present in the cell, the simple epithelium can be divided into squamous epithelium, cuboidal epithelium and columnar epithelium. So first let us learn about squamous epithelium. You can see the cells here are flattened, they are generally square. They are thin layer of flattened cells with irregular boundaries. They are generally found in the walls of blood vessels, that is artery, vein, capillaries, and in lung alveoli. Alveoli is where the diffusion of gases in our lung takes place. This layer needs to be very thin so that the diffusion can take place easily. So, general function of this epithelium is to form a diffusion boundary. Diffusion is movement of particles from higher concentration to lower concentration. Now, let us look at cuboidal epithelium. So, the cuboidal epithelium, as the name is telling us, has these tube-like cells. It is generally found in ducts of glands and tubular part of nephron. Nephron is found in our kidney. They are the structural units of our kidneys, right? So, the role of these cells is secretion and absorption. Epithelium of proximal convoluted tubule, that is PCT, of a nephron has microvilli in it. Now let us look at columnar epithelium. So as the name is telling you, the cells are here like columns. They are tall and slender. That means they are thin cells. Their nuclei are generally located at the base. You can see here nucleus is present at the base. They have a free surface and they might have a microvilli. They are generally found in the lining of stomach and small intestine. And their function is to help in secretion and in absorption. Now, there can be various modification of these columnar epithelial cells. They can be ciliated epithelial cells also. That is, they are cells which bear cilia on their surfaces. Cilia are these hair-like structures which you see. They are present in the inner surface of hollow organs like the bronchioles and the fallopian tubes. So generally, the function of the cilia is to remove particles or mucus in a specific direction so that the body does not suffer from any type of infection. Now students, some columnar epithelial tissues are specialized for secretion. So these tissues are called glandular epithelium. They are of two types. They can be unicellular or they can be multicellular. Unicellular obviously has isolated glandular cells. For example, goblet cells of the alimentary canal which secrete mucus. Then there can be multicellular which consists of cluster of cells like for example the cells found in our salivary glands. So based on the type of secretions coming out, the glands are of two types. They can be exocrine or endocrine. Now the main difference between these two glands is that the exocrine glands secrete the secretions through ducts. That is, they have tubes. Example would be salivary gland which secretes saliva. You can see here there is a tube present in the salivary gland, right? The next example would be any gland which is secreting mucus or the glands which secrete our digestive enzymes. The other type of gland are the ductless gland or the endocrine gland. They do not have any ducts, so they directly pour their secretions. These glands usually produce hormones. The best example would be pancreas which secrete insulin. Then there is the compound epithelium. So the compound epithelium is composed of multi-layered cells as you can see in the diagram. It has limited role in secretion and absorption. They usually cover dry surfaces of the skin, moist surfaces of our buccal cavity, that is our mouth, pharynx, inner lining of ducts of salivary glands and pancreatic glands. The main function is to give us protection against chemical and mechanical stresses that is faced in this region. All cells in epithelium are held together with little intercellular material, right? So in nearly all animal tissues, there are specialized junctions. These junctions provide structural and functional links between the adjacent cells. So these junctions can be of three types. They can be tight junctions, adhering junction or gap junctions. Let us look at all three types. So what is a tight junction? Tight junction generally helps to stop substances from leaking across a tissue. So this would be a tight junction. Then there is adhering junctions. What are these? They perform the job of cementing. That is, they join the neighboring cells together. Then we come to the gap junctions. Here you can see this is a gap junction. Gap junctions generally facilitate the cells to communicate with each other by connecting the cytoplasm of the adjacent cells. So because of this, there is rapid transfer of ions, small molecules as well as big molecules. Now let us learn about connective tissue. So connective tissue is usually a tissue that links and supports other tissues or organs. They are most abundant in complex organisms. All connective tissue except blood have fibroblast cells. They secrete fibrous proteins called collagen and elastin. As we all know, collagen and elastin give us strength, elasticity and flexibility. The cells also secrete modified polysaccharides. This is what forms the matrix, which accumulates between these cells and the fibers. So the connective tissues can be classified into three broad categories, that is loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue and specialized connective tissues. Loose connective tissue would include the areolar and adipose tissue. The dense connective tissues will include dense regular and dense irregular tissues, whereas the specialized connective tissue would include cartilage, bone and blood. So as I told you about loose connective tissue, let us study about them first. So In these type of tissue, cells, that is the fibroblast, macrophages, mast cells, all of them along with the fibers are loosely arranged. That's why the name loose connective tissue, right? These are arranged in a semi-fluid matrix, that is semi-solid matrix. They can be of two types, areolar and adipose tissue. So let us look at both these types of tissues now. Areolar tissues are generally present beneath the skin and they serve as a support framework for the epithelium. So they basically provide support to the epithelium, right? So let us look at the adipose tissue. They are found beneath the skin. They generally store fats. So they have these fat deposits. Excess nutrients are converted into fats and they are stored here. So this is where the fat storage takes place in our body. Now let us look at the dense connective tissue. So as the name is telling you, here fibers and fibroblasts are compactly packed. That means they are densely packed. They can either have a regular pattern. So these tissues with regular pattern are called dense regular connective tissue, or they can have an irregular pattern and these are called the dense irregular connective tissues. So let us look at the dense regular connective tissue. They show a regular pattern as we can see in the diagram. Collagen fibers are present in rows between many parallel bundle of fibers. These yellow structures, these are the collagen fibers. Example of these would be tendons and our ligaments. So the tendons attach the skeletal muscles to the bone. This is a tendon. It will attach the muscle to the bone. Bicep is the muscle which is being attached to the bone here. Then we have ligaments. So ligaments attach one bone to another. As we know, our body is made of lots of bones. So the ligaments do the job of attaching one bone to another bone. Now let us look at dense irregular tissue. So obviously these have irregular patterns and they are generally present on the skin. Now let us have a look at specialized connective tissue. So the best example would be a cartilage. In this, the intercellular matrix is solid and pliable. That means chondroitin is present here and this resists compression. That is, you cannot press it. Cartilage cells, that is chondrocytes, are enclosed in small cavities within the matrix which is secreted by them. So you can see these cells, they are enclosed within the matrix. Most of the cartilages in vertebrate embryos are replaced by bones once they become adults. Cartilage is present in the tip of our nose. So when you touch it, you can actually feel the cartilage. Outer ear, joints in the vertebral column, limbs and hands in the adults. The next one is the bone. Bones, as we all know, are hard. They have a non-pliable matrix which is rich in calcium salts and collagen fiber which give the bone its strength. Bones are very, very hard. We cannot bend them, right? So bone cells are called osteocytes and they are seen in spaces called leukemia. You can see here these are the cells present. Bones provide the structural frame to the body. Like if our bones were not there, then we would not have any shape. It is the skeletal system which provides the shape to our body. They support and protect softer tissues and organs. So that's why all our softer tissues, all our internal organs are protected. Limb bones serve weight-bearing function. Our limbs carry the weight of our entire body. They take part in locomotion and movement. We move because of them. Blood cells are produced in bone marrow, right? So all the blood cells, RBC, WBC, platelets will be produced from the bone marrow. The last type of specialized connective tissue is our blood. Blood is basically a fluid connective tissue which contains plasma. Plasma is the liquid part of the blood And then there are solid parts of the blood. They are the cells, that is RBC, red blood cell, which carries the oxygen around our body. Then we have WBC, the white blood cells, which help us to give immunity and fight infections. And then we have platelets, which help in clotting. So blood helps in circulation of various substances around our body. Now let us look at the next type of tissue, that is the muscle tissue. So the muscle tissues are made up of many muscle fibers and muscle cells. Muscle fibers are composed of numerous fine myofibrils. These are the myofibrils. The muscle fibers can contract, that is they become shorter in length, and they can relax, they can become bigger in length. Muscles take part in locomotion and movement. This is how we move, because these muscle fibers, they slide over one another and enable us to move. So there can be following types of muscle, that is skeletal muscle. These are generally voluntary muscles, smooth muscles, non-striated or visceral muscles, and then the third type is the cardiac muscle. So the skeletal muscles are generally very close to the skeletal system. In a typical muscle such as biceps, striated skeletal muscle fibers are bundled together in a parallel fashion, right? So we see these striations present here. A sheet of tough connective tissue encloses several bundles of these muscle fibers. We will learn more about this in the 20th chapter. The next type of muscle is the smooth or non-striated or visceral muscles. These are involuntary muscles. That means they are not in our control, and they are fusiform. That is, the fibers taper at both the ends. You can see here there are no striations present. The cells junctions hold them together, and they are bundled together in a connective tissue sheet. They are seen in wall of internal organs like our blood vessels, stomach, as well as the intestine. The next type of muscle is our cardiac muscle. As the name is telling you, cardiac, that is the scientific name of our heart. So again, this muscle is also an involuntary muscle. We cannot control our cardiac muscle, right? The heart beats on its own. So it is an involuntary muscle seen only in heart. The cell junctions fuse the plasma membranes of the cells and make them stick together. So the communication junctions allow the cells to contract as one unit. So when one cell receives a signal to contract, its neighboring cell will also contract. This is how our heart pumps the blood around our body. Next, let us look at the neural tissue. So neural tissue is obviously part of our nervous system, that is our brain. They are made up of neurons. They are responsible for control and coordination of the body. The brain needs to control all the organs of the body. So it is very important that the brain sends these signals all throughout the body. So the brain does this with the help of neurons or the neural tissue. These neurons, they are excitable cells which carry impulses. In our body, these are the electrical impulses. So the neurons are protected and supported by the neuroglial cells. The neuroglia is made up of makes up more than half the volume of the neural tissue. So these neural tissue basically help us in communication. I hope you all understood all the animal tissue. In the coming videos, we will look at the organ system, about earthworm, cockroach, and